Well, welcome everyone today to our Weber County Board of Commission meeting. We'll call this a meeting to order, dated this 19th day of December 2017 at 10 o'clock in the morning. In attendance today are Commissioner Gibson and Commissioner Ebert. Commissioner Harvey is excused. He will be here as quickly as he can. He's at a viewing. We'll start today with an invocation by Carlo Macapugai. I say it quicker as I go, it makes more sense. Our Pledge of Allegiance will be led by Joe Olson, and I'll have our thought of the day. Carlo.
Let's pray. Our Father in heaven, we do thank you for gathering us here today, that we can take care of county business. And Lord God, we thank you for your kindness and your grace. We pray that as these men and ladies in charge here, as they minister to our county, that all things will be done according to your will. And Lord God, again, we thank you for your grace in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. Please go on from the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, Carlo. Thank you very much, Joe.
Carlo, I just wanted to tell you thanks. Are you from the Berean Baptist Church?
Yes, sir.
I just wanted to point out that your pastor and a bunch of young kids, and well, a whole bunch of people, young and old of all ages, showed up in our office yesterday morning singing Christmas hymns, Christmas carols. And I was in a meeting around the corner with the door closed. I heard the singing and walked out to catch just one of the sweetest sights I've ever seen. And I just wanted to tell you thank you for the difference you made in my day yesterday. And I think in the day, I'm sure this wasn't the only place you came. Probably even went through the building a little bit. So I hope you'll pass that on. That it's always great to have someone who wants to share the spirit of Christmas and the goodness that comes from it wherever they go. And it was a great spirit and a great feeling, but really good harmonies too. Tell them good work. They're practicing well.
Thank you. Amazing time of the year. We have a long agenda, so I'll just give a quick thought. For Christmas, gift suggestions. To your enemy, forgiveness. To an opponent, tolerance. To a friend, your heart. To a customer, service. To all, charity. To every child, a good example. And to yourself, respect. Thoughtful words during this time of the year. We'll move on to item E, consent. Under consent, number 1, a request for approval of warrants 1292 through 1307 and 423738 through 4241014 in the amount of $2,416,701.74. Item number 2 is a request for approval of purchase orders in the amount of $94,695.41. Item number 3 has been held. Item number 4 is a request for approval of a new beer license. Item number 5 is a request from the Weber County Garage for approval to surplus a 2017 Freightliner Vector. Item number 6 is a request for approval to set the date of January 2nd, 2018 for a public hearing regarding Wolf Creek Resort Development Agreement, Amendment number 3. And item number 7 is a request for approval to cancel the Weber County Commission meeting scheduled for December 26, 2017. Any questions or concerns about those consent items, Commissioner? If not, Mr. Hatch, would you go over our PO for our warrants?
And as just a way of information for those who haven't been here before, this is just I give the highlights and summaries of the key checks and purchase orders that were issued and approved or about to be approved during the past week. So we issued 11 purchase orders this week for $95,000. 23% of that amount, or $22,000, was for the library, and that's to purchase document stations. Another 23%, or $21,000, is for the sheriff, and this is for a software module for their Spillman software package. 17%, or $16,000, is for the conference center, and that is an audio upgrade 14% or $13,000. We have two items. One is for the jail, and that's to repair a boiler. And another is for the elections office, and that is to purchase outdoor 24-hour ballot boxes. We issued 297 checks this week for $2.4 million. This was spread among primarily 6 main payments. 17% of that amount, or $405,000, was for the transfer station, and that was for our disposal fees. 16%, or $391,000, were for repairs made to the Nordic Valley Road that was damaged in a mudslide. 12%, or $283,000, was primarily for the Weber River Protection Project, a matching amount for a federal grant that was received, and then some for the Depot Drive extension. 9%, or $214,000, went to our paramedic services. That was our monthly payment. 7%, or $169,000, went to our Weber Human Services, and that was the monthly payment to that organization. And then 5%, or $124,000, was for the library, and that was for construction at the main branch and the North Ogden branch.
Thank you, Mr. Hatch. Commissioner Gibson, any questions or concerns? If not, I'm open for a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the consent items as read.
I'll second that motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? It passes. Thank you very much. We'll move on to action items, just as a point of reference. Our first two action items were actually on our presentation list last week, and so we've spent some time talking about them and finding more information about them. The first one is a discussion and or action on the Ogden Weber Convention Visitors Bureau Annual Marketing Plan and amendment to the CVB contract. Senator Tolliver.
Thank you, Commissioners. As you mentioned a couple of weeks ago, per our contract with the county, we are required to present our annual marketing plan to the Commission for approval. We have a multi-year contract with you, but acceptance of that marketing plan is part of our contract. So I presented that a couple of weeks ago, and I'm just here to ask for you to take action on approval of that plan. And then for this 2018 year, per the budget, we are increasing the compensation amount to the Convention and Visitors Bureau to $945,000.
Questions, Commissioner Gibson?
What was the increase again, Sarah?
The total amount is $945,000. It's an increase of $65,000 to last year's contract.
I'm open for motion then, sir.
Make a motion that we approve the Ogden Weber Convention Visitors Bureau Annual Marketing Plan and amendment.
I will second that motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Thank
It passes. Thank you, Sarah. The second item is ratify a resolution that designates the last week in October as opioid awareness for the county. It's something that Commissioner Gibson spoke passionately about when we agreed to move forward on litigation. And this is part of our educational opportunities. Weber State had a group of students really working on opioid education, and this was part of their overall project. And we've had several weeks to talk about this. It's come up in several different meetings. And so we're here today to ratify that. Any questions? If not, I'm open for a motion.
Yeah, I think where we've talked about this 2 weeks in a row, I don't really have anything else to say other than I think we're on the right path here, both with the outreach and the threat of possible legal action. And so I think that it's important that we move forward, and I just apologize to these kids from Weber State who kind of wanted this done last week, and we messed it up. So I'll make a motion, Mr. Chair, that we
54.
ratify resolution number 54, recognizing the last week of October as Opioid Addiction Awareness Week.
I will second that. Any further discussion?
Commissioner Gibson? Aye. And Chair Ebert?
Aye. It passes. Thank you very much. Item number 3 is a request for approval of a resolution declaring that freedom from domestic violence is a fundamental human right, and that local government has a responsibility to continue securing this right on behalf of our citizens. Commissioner Gibson.
Again, I gave an impassioned plea on this last week. It's something that's very important to me, and I think to many of our our colleagues throughout the state. I want to again thank Commissioner Whitney as the chair of the Utah Association of Counties for bringing this to the forefront and making this something that's important to him, that was important to him. And again, I was hoping that this would be a way of bringing this issue to the forefront and being offering an opportunity for more discussion on it. And so I hope this is a possibility. I hope it continues to get some legs, and so that people know where we stand and how we feel about this issue. So, Commissioner, I'll make a motion that we approve this resolution 50. What did we decide?
55.
Declaring freedom from domestic violence is a fundamental human right, and that local government has the responsibility to continue securing this right on behalf of all of our citizens.
I will second that motion. Any further discussion?
Commissioner Gibson.
Aye.
Chair Ebert.
Aye. It passes. Thank you very much. Item number 4 is a request from the Weber County Tax Review Committee for approval of a recommendation of a refund to Glenda Enterprise LC, parcel 12-006-0014, in the amount of $206.99 due to a county error. Mr. Joe Olson.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm here on behalf of the Tax Review Committee. We identified through the Board of Equalization that we had a property identified as 12, 6, and 14, that we had some physical identifiers that were incorrect. The property owner, Ms. Collins, made a request for us to review that information. After reviewing that information, we did identify that the physical identifiers were incorrect. We corrected those identifiers, reran value, and based on the statute of limitation, we made a recommendation to the Tax Review Committee that we rectify that value and refund as far back as we could based on our statute of limitations that you've identified that we should follow. We'd make a recommendation that that you approve a refund for $206.99 to Ms. Collins under Glenda Enterprises LC. And I have talked to the property owner several times, and she's aware of this recommendation.
Thank you, Joe. Commissioner.
Well, I just think it's super important. First of all, let me commend you and your office, Joe, for your diligence on this. I mean, to be honest, it's not very often that we see mistakes, because you do such a tremendous job, and we're super grateful for that. And I think it's important that when we do realize that it was a county error, that we rectify it and make it correct with the taxpayer as soon as possible. And so I'm grateful to have this opportunity to make it right with Glenda Enterprises. So thank you, and I'll make a motion, Mr. Chair, that we approve item number 4, which is a recommendation, approving the recommendation from the Tax Review Committee to refund $206.99 to Glenda Enterprises.
I will second that motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. It passes. Thank you. Item number 5, request from the Weber County Tax Review Committee for approval of a recommendation to deny a request for primary residential status for the 2016 tax year for Scott and Karen Robertson, parcel number 20-145-0012. Joe.
Also, on behalf of the Tax Review Committee, we had a request from a property owner. A property that was built in the 2015 calendar year had a value on the assessment roll for 2016, is in an area of the valley that is primarily taxed at a secondary rate. Rather, they do not receive the primary residential exemption. The property was not allowed the primary residential exemption for 2016. For 2017, based on further conversations, we identified that property does in fact qualify for that residential exemption. We applied it to 2017. The property owner made a request to go back and apply the exemption to the 2016 tax year. The Tax Review Committee believes it's a Board of Equalization issue. The timely filing for 2016 would have been September 15th of 16. The extended deadline would be March 31st of 2017. The owner did not make application for that primary residential exemption timely. The Tax Review Committee believes there was proper notice. There was not timely filing, and we do have a precedent before this board and also through the court system that it is a Board of Equalization issue. They had proper notice, and the recommendation from the committee would be that we deny that request for that exemption for 2016.
Thank you, Joe. Any questions specific to the denial? Okay, if none, I'm open for a motion.
You know, like in relationship to my statement on the last item, these are harder because I always want to look for an opportunity to support and help the taxpayer. By the same token, we are bound by the statute to follow the law, and sometimes we can't do what we would like to do even if we would like to. And the reality is, in this case, deadlines were not met, and I think that is where we received the recommendation from the Tax Review Commission. So I will make a motion that we approve the recommendation from the Tax Review Committee denying a request on parcel number 20-145-0012.
I'll second the motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Abstain.
2 aye votes and 1 abstention. It passes. Thank you very much. Item number 6. Thank you, Joe. Thanks for all the hard work also. Is a request from the Weber County Community and Economic Development Department to approval to sell surplus real property, parcel number 01-039-0048. Mr. Sean Wilkinson.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you. Commissioners, before you today is a request for approval to sell a small right-of-way that Weber County has owned since 1942 when we obtained it at tax sale. This is between 21st and 22nd Street and Adams Avenue here in Ogden. The Ogden Community Foundation would like to buy this piece because it serves other property that they own as well as property owned by the Ogden City Redevelopment Agency. So the county has no use for this property, and we would like to sell it to the Ogden Community Foundation. So we are asking for that approval this morning.
Questions, Commissioners?
I can make that motion to approve the sale of this parcel number 01039-0048 as presented.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion?
Just a comment that I think the key here is that there's no use for county purposes. It doesn't make sense for me to own any property that we don't have a use for. I think our procedure allows us to offer to a adjacent entity, correct, Sean?
Yes.
And that's one of those, this case. So grateful for this moving forward. So I appreciate it. Thanks for bringing it.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? It passes. Thank you. Item number 7 is a request for approval of an agreement between Weber County and SMHG Management LLC for the use of county equipment for snow removal. Mr. Wilkinson.
Thank you, Commissioners. This is an agreement that would allow the county to lease equipment to Powder Mountain Ski Resort at times when the county does not provide regular snow removal service. So if a bad storm is coming and they feel like they will need service through the night that the county does not provide, they would be able to lease county equipment to provide that extra service for the ski resort. They are required to have insurance, and they are responsible for any damage that occurs while using that equipment. And the county will still maintain all of its equipment, and the lease is subject to availability, so we will manage that closely. There is also a termination clause that allows either party to terminate the agreement with 30 days notice without any reason. So those are the terms of the agreement. Are there any questions?
See no questions, Commissioners. Motion?
I'll make the motion that we approve the agreement between Weber County and SMHG Management for, as presented by Sean Wilkinson.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Do I have any further discussion from the motion and second? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? It passes. Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Wilkinson. Item number 8 is request for approval to add possible community block grant project to Weber County's capital improvements for the 2017 through 2021. Chad Meyerhofer. You're not Chad Meyerhofer.
Not Chad Meyerhofer.
Rick Grover. Mr. Grover, glad to see your smiling face.
Good morning, Commissioners. This is just looking at adding a couple possible requests to the CBDG grant. And what we're looking at is Weber County Housing Authority. They're looking at doing a multifamily project throughout Weber County, and they'd like to be able to look at possible funding options there. And then also Weber County is looking at applying for some funds for moderate income housing to improve our existing plan. The other items that are on there right now are items that you're already aware of, but if you'd like to change the order of them or anything like that, that's definitely within your purview. And that's what we're asking for.
Thank you. Any questions specific to changing or adding projects to the CBG and the county's capital improvement plan for between 2017 and 2021? Seeing no discussion, do I have a motion?
I appreciate the work that goes into these recommendations, Rick. Appreciate all that you do, and I'll make a motion that we approve the list of improvements from 2017 through 2021.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? I will just add there's been a tremendous amount of work that's being done, has been done, and it continues to be done on the part of Weber Housing Authority. And he does a tremendous job and really is moving forward on how we provide housing to those that are less fortunate. So I want to express my appreciation to her forward thinking and all the work that she's put into this. So thank you very much. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? It passes. Thank you very much. Item number 9, request for approval of an agreement by and between Weber County and Emily Adams and Sharice Bakalski for indigent defense attorney appeals. Mr. Brian Barron.
Morning, Commissioners. Our current contract with Sam Newton to provide appellate work for indigent defendants is expiring on January 31st. And so we've gone through the procurement process and we've selected Emily Adams and Sharice Bakalski to take that contract. They've both done work for the county in the past. They do excellent work. They specialize in the area of criminal appeals, and so this will be a good contract for the county.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Brian Barron? Seeing none, I'm open for a motion.
I'll move that we approve this agreement between Weber County, Emily Adams, and Sharice Bakalski for the indigent defense. And thanks for your work on this,
yep.
Brian. I know that we've been dealing with this for several months.
Yeah.
Appreciate your help.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It passes. Thank you. Item 10, request for approval of an agreement by and between Weber County and Sean Condi for indigent defense attorney in the district court.
This is one of our district court indigent defense attorneys is leaving. He found a new job at a law firm and can no longer do the contract. And so we recommend that the county enter into a contract with Sean Condi to take over his responsibilities.
Thank you. Questions, commissioners? Seeing none, open for a motion.
Move for approval of the contract between Weber County and Sean Condi for indigent defense.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? It passes. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Item number 11 has been held. Item number 12 is a discussion and or action regarding the appointment of a study committee to evaluate the form of government in Weber County. And if I could ask Mr. Kimball Wheatley and Mr. Oscar Mata maybe to step to the podium really quickly to have some discussion. We have over the last several weeks and or months had this topic in front of the commission. I know it's something that several groups have been looking at for probably over a year now. It's come in front of the commission to make some decisions. And so, Mr. Wheatley, if you would come up, we would appreciate that. And Mr. Mata, if you would come up also. I'll turn a little bit of time over to Commissioner Harvey. He made a motion in a meeting probably three or 4 weeks ago to bring these two groups together, and if he would kind of maybe outline that a little bit so we could set a premise for our discussion today.
There was a discussion held where we had a group of petitioners who wanted to look to change or to study the form of government and to find out if what we're doing is is acceptable, or if we need to look at changing our form of government. Not necessarily, in my mind, not to change the form of government, but to study the form of government to find out if what we're doing is correct or if it warrants a change. And so when the original petitioners and the new petitioners, we asked them to get together and meet together as a group without elected officials. And I guess this is we set the meeting. We wanted to move forward before the end of the year. This is the last commission meeting before the end of the year, and now I'm ready to hear a report. Thank you. And so I'd turn that back to you, Chair, and then you can.
I believe, Mr. Wheatley, you have been working with the petitioners, and if you would take a moment and maybe report back what maybe conclusion you've come to, so we can have an idea of what's transpired and what direction you're kind of leaning with the groups.
Thank you. As you all know, we were with you, we came about a year ago in November and asked that the commission put the study question on the ballot. And at the time, you declined, but you did say you were supportive of it, but you really kind of needed to know if it was more than just 5 people that really cared about this. And so you preferred that a petition occur. Yes, to show you that. Just a reminder and to let everybody kind of know where that started. And then, as you know, the petitioners this year actually launched the petition, and that was underway when Mr. Harvey was the meeting, or just beginning at the time that this meeting Mr. Harvey was describing occurred. Since then, our group, or at least a couple of people from our group have met with the executive committee of the Weber County Forward Group. We co-authored the pamphlet that went out with the petition. Been kind of working together to make it happen. We both agreed, we both had the same goal, and that was we really had to get a study on the ballot as soon as we can, that now's a good time to study. We did depart finally in terms of the strategy of that. We're arguing, our group was arguing that it ought to be what you called option C last time. That was the option of accepting the petition, encouraging the petition, and letting the petition go forward, but at the same time saying today that if the petition does not go forward, if it doesn't succeed, that you're for this. Puts a unified kind of front for the petitioners, for both groups, for the county commission, to say this is a good time to study county government. We don't have giant controversies going on, which would change the texture of the whole study period. So it is kind of a nice time, and we are saying accept the petition. If it's unsuccessful, use your authority to go forward anyway, but put some certainty into it. So you could do that today, and with that kind of certainty, we could move immediately on to educating the public about what it means to vote to study our form of county government. And that's not an easy thing I've found in talking with people. It's a very difficult concept for them even to understand why they have to vote to study. Why don't we just go to vote with study? So in any case, that's my report. Oscar?
Thank you all for engaging us in this. I agree with Kim. We've had very positive talks about this, and I think we're on the same page here that, you know, today we would like to see the commission, support our efforts in gathering signatures and, making a statement that if we are unsuccessful, that in a future meeting that you guys would put it on the ballot. I think that's something we all agree on. And again, we're just looking at the study. We're not encouraging a specific form over another. I think we've done a lot of good work in educating the public so far. We've gotten over, I think it's close to 3,000 signatures done in just a few weeks. And at this time, we are expecting to reach the 8,601 valid signatures. But we encourage the commission to, make a statement that if we're not able to collect the signatures, that you guys would be in support of this.
Thank you, Mr. Mata, Commissioner Harvey, Commissioner Gibson.
Does that sound like we're on the same page?
That sounds like we're moving forward, as the name indicates.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Questions, thoughts, or concerns?
I don't know. I mean, I appreciate this group, these two groups getting together and having these discussions. My guess is that as I look at the audience, that there are several who are here to have discussion on this issue. I don't know if it's appropriate, Mr. Chair, to allow a few of them to speak, or if it's, you know, if we gathering signatures in the petition as that is stated, or are we looking to pass a resolution today? What is the direction that you understood from that discourse we just had? Because I'm confused by it.
Commissioner Harvey. I think the general discussion I like to have is we gave specific direction in our last meeting to help us make some decisions. That direction was to try to remove as much of the political rhetoric out of this initiative, to create a true grassroots and not being driven by individuals who are running for office or individuals who are creating platforms or individuals that had their own agenda for political construct. That was what that's what I think the direction that Commissioner Harvey had laid out. We were hoping that the two groups could come together and really formulate a good plan moving forward. I saw two representatives from the groups that are basically have turned into one group, and they gave us, I believe, some good direction. It supports the signature process. It supports those who have spent a tremendous amount of time formulating some strategies and putting together a community group. And so it seems to me like we're all on the same page right now, and we would need to have a resolution that would reflect that. However, I again express a tremendous amount of concern with some of the construct and the direction some folks may try to push it. That being said, I have a tremendous amount of respect for a lot of the individuals that have been involved in this process, and so I will defer to them to move this forward, and we will try to stay as a resource when needed. And that's kind of the position I'm coming from.
Could I trouble Mr. Wheatley and Mr. Mata? Would you mind coming just back to the microphone so people can hear? Just because we're in a public meeting, I want to be clear for people who may not understand the whole process or the petitioners. But is it fair? Is it a fair statement to say, Mr. Mata, that you are a part of a group of petitioners that filed a petition within the last 3 months?
Yes.
That are interested in looking at studying the form of government?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
And Mr. Wheatley, is it a fair statement to say that you've been a part of a group of people who've been interested to study the form of government, you said about a year ago? Is that also correct?
That is correct.
And weeks ago, we asked the two of you to come together to make a recommendation, the two groups to come together to make a recommendation to this commission on what we should do. Is that correct?
That is correct, but that is maybe not what happened.
Yes, that is correct, and I was under the impression that has happened.
Okay. If to make the statement that my understanding right this moment is that you representing the most recent group and you representing the other group, that if we allow the petition process to move forward, and you still go out to gather signatures, but in the event, for whatever reason, enough signatures are not gathered, that this commission still agrees to put forward on a regular election ballot to study the form of government that works, does that work for both of you with your respective groups? Is that what you just told us?
Yes.
Yeah, so just to clarify, you would allow us to collect the petition and not step in and put it on the ballot unless we were unable to collect the signatures, correct?
My thinking here is that this goes on the ballot. Whether you get the signatures or not, it still goes on the ballot that we would be willing. That's where I'm focused on. My concern the whole time is that a petition process can require us to hold a special election. That is fiscally irresponsible for the county, as it would cost us between $120,000 and $180,000 as represented in our budget hearing. If the signature process would still allow us to put this on the ballot during a regular election where all it is just more ink on an existing ballot that's going out, it's not a special election, then I don't have a problem moving forward with it, which whatever way it comes through. I am in favor of studying what is the best form of government. But I am not in favor of costing taxpayers $120,000 to $180,000 because they decide they want to take it out of phase. That is irresponsible. I've said that from the very, very beginning. This makes it more of a management decision than a political or a campaign decision, and that, for me, I'm just speaking for me, it works best. So if both of you are in agreement to that, unless there's more discussion, I'm ready to make a motion.
I have just a little bit of discussion. I don't think I have any questions, so you can sit if you'd like, so you don't have to tire yourselves there. I think, first of all, not to correct you, Commissioner, but my understanding of the statute is that that there is not a provision under the state statute for a special election. That
there is. Well, I could be wrong, but that's how I've been advised.
My understanding is that it would be on the next scheduled election, and that would be a question of whether it should be on a primary, which would be a regularly scheduled election, or a general. Basically, that it would be the next scheduled election.
Mr. Crockett, could you answer, because the language does say special election, but my understanding is maybe the special election and the primary election are considered the same thing. Or would you just review that for us so that we have a better understanding?
I'd be happy to. The provision of code that is applicable is Utah Code 1752-203.5, requires the county to hold an election under this particular section one of two ways. We've got the petition or a resolution. Each election under subsection 1 shall be a special election called and held as required, and then it gives the specific sections for that. So I believe my interpretation of it has been from the timing of when it is passed, either the petition is certified or a resolution is passed, it comes on the next special election, which would either be the June election or the November election.
So we're not talking about having a specific special election that would cost us unless we had 0 primaries. So if we had no primary for whatever reason, which in this day and age with the political nature we have right now, we will have a primary. It would be scheduled for that primary election.
If there are other issues to be voted on in the 4th Tuesday of June, yeah, it would go on with those as well.
I stand corrected. My interests are solely about being fiscally responsible with taxpayer funds.
Can I ask one more question, Mr. Hatch? If an issue such as this was to be placed on the June primary election ballot, when would be an appropriate time for signatures to need to be gathered for that certification?
Statutorily, the very last day possible is April 23rd. From a logistical standpoint, if we could have it 65 days before, that gives us time to complete the ballot, have it properly vetted, and then sent to the printer.
Okay, perfect. So
And maybe this will help commissioners really quickly. Mr. Crockett prepared several different resolutions depending on maybe the direction that we were going to be reported from Mr. Mata and Mr. Wheatley. This one seems like it's the closest to resolution, so if you wouldn't mind, I'd read this particular resolution. Are you comfortable with that?
Yes.
Whereas it has been 19 years since the form of government has been officially evaluated by a study committee of Weber County, and whereas Weber County Commission and commissioners find it appropriate to periodically evaluate and study the various forms of government available for citizens to choose from in the administration of local government, and whereas the Commission fully supports the formation of a study committee to review those forms of government, and whereas there are currently groups of citizens working to collect signatures to petition the county to have this very issue placed on the ballot at the next special election, and whereas if the petitioners are unable to collect the required number of signatures, the Commission does not want to miss the opportunity to put this item on the ballot at the next special election in 2018. Now, therefore, let it be resolved by the Board of County Commissioners of Weber County that will wait to take further action in passing a resolution to place the study committee question on the ballot until at least April 1st, 2018. Petitioners will have until that date to have the petition certified. If petitioners are unable to submit a certified petition by that date, the Commission will pass its own resolution to place the study committee question on the ballot. That resolution, if necessary, shall be passed no later than April 17, 2018, taking in the last drop dead date that Mr. Hatch talked about. Comments on that resolution?
I like the language in this resolution. I do share just a little frustration in having not seen it until this morning, not knowing it was out there. My understanding, as I brought up my first concern this morning, was that we were looking at the resolution from last month. There's two in front of us now. They're both interesting, but I think this one is the best for just a couple reasons I want to be clear on. First of all, one of the best ways to encourage public involvement in a process like this is to have the dialogue that goes on in front rooms and front porches and in discussion among people. If we take that opportunity away, I think that makes a big difference in how a particular issue is viewed if it is done from a central type location. And frankly, I think the other challenge is simply that if our goal, which I think is a worthy goal, is to try and keep the discussion to the merits of a particular thing and try to at least avoid as much as possible the appearance of political gamesmanship, it does strike me as odd that we would then want to put that decision in the hands of the very body that tends to benefit or have detriment from that particular decision. And so I think it's important to allow this process to go forward. I think it speaks volumes that in a month these individuals have, which are represented by a broad group of people, both different, all kinds of different variety of people and thought processes, that they have been able to come up with 3,000 signatures as reported today, or nearly that, to me says an awful lot about the staying power of this group to continue and be able to have the type of public involvement that is necessary, I think, for this decision to really be made well. But I do support at this point, as has been said, and that's why I'd vote for the resolution. If it stalls and it doesn't move forward in a timely manner, and that we ought to have this discussion, and I would be willing to vote to put that on the ballot from this body. So I just think we ought to allow the petition process to go forward as it has begun already in earnest. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I'm comfortable with the resolution that you read, just to make that clear.
Commissioner Harvey, if you'd like to comment, and then I think it would be appropriate to open it up for public comment before we vote on the resolution. I think we put a tremendous amount of time in this, and I think there's some folks that have showed up today to express their opinions.
That's great. I'm sorry, I'm going to ask Mr. Wheatley, Mr. Mata to come back to the mic again.
You may want to sit closer.
No, this will probably be the last question.
Yeah, probably not.
Okay, fine. The resolution that was read by Commissioner Ebert and just commented on, does that sound like a fair or equitable resolution to you, Mr. Wheatley?
Yes, I turned to my partner and said, perfect.
No. Mr. Mata, does that look like a fair and equitable resolution as far as you're concerned?
Yes.
May I ask a question? Was that partner Molesky or Holmstrom? I'm wondering which.
Sorry.
Okay.
That answers my question.
Do I sit down now?
Yeah,
There's a lot of questions.
Thank you very much. We would enjoy some public input, so please feel free to come to the microphone. If you do comment, please give your name and where you live, and please keep it to right around 2 minutes. We'd appreciate it. Please, come on up.
Hi, my name is Rick Fairbanks, and that committee, I chaired that committee 19 years ago, and what's unique about what's going on now versus what occurred then is there was a lot of division between Ogden Valley and what was going on up in the Snow Basin, or not Snow Basin, but the Powder Mountain area, and it had to do with property purchasing, etc. And so there was a lot of discontent, and so there was a strong desire from one party to make sure we changed the form of government. So the commission put together a committee to do a study, which we had a pretty diverse committee, and we studied it for a couple, 3-4 months, I think it was, and we decided at that point that the 3-person commission was, and I believe it was a unanimous decision, I can't remember, I'm old, to maintain the same structure that we had at the time. But I also think it's really valid to examine things every now and again, and I'm happy that this is on the study is on everybody's radar now, and it may or may not be on the ballot. I hope that it does, regardless of the manner in which it ends up. But I think it's a healthy thing to take a look at every now and then, and who knows what the results will be, but I think it's healthy to re-examine. Those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fairbanks. Come on up. Please. You have to speak into the microphone because Fatima requires it to be recorded. Now you can take your time. We have until the 24th because we do have Christmas off.
Virginia Hernandez Reza, and you want my address?
You can just give what city you live in. Would be great.
I live in Ogden, born here. I'm glad I came to this meeting. I have not been coming. I do speak for a lot of the community, Weber and Davis. And I do have this article that I'm going to pass out. I was going to do it anyway at the issue. But what these two gentlemen have brought forward, I was aware of when they wanted to do the petition, brought before you men, and kind of pushed aside. And now you're going to make you just did, or you're going to make a decision to let it go. What troubled me, what I was hearing with you men, you were saying it was it could turn into a political issue, or people are using it for political gain in either groups. Well, these two groups, sounds like they're doing a great job, and I'm going to get and talk to both men to let them know who we are. We are third generation here in Ogden, Weber County, and this is kind of what is going on. And we kind of represent the indigent population that has been coming forward these past months. We're not being heard. I've gone to several different meetings. All of you were on, and basically my opinions for the community I interact with were put to the side. You have to treat all people, whether political minded or they know what they're saying or they're going according to the law, which you have to. You have to listen to their opinions. There is a huge amount of people out there that I represent that want to know this change about what is it that you want to pass it to see. You're making a decision on somebody coming in to do a research survey on the indigent population. Okay, there's so much in there that is not there, that I represent the people, whether Hispanics, blacks, white, African American, American Indians, that are fit in this category since 1927 and to today. So my voice and the people I interact with, we want to be heard. We've been trying. So maybe we could hook up with these two great men. We can come together and set to force that, but we can change the dynamics, okay? Can I leave this, or I'm not allowed to?
No, you'd love to.
Can I go up there? Because
You bet
we're
you
told
can.
you cannot do this in the city council.
We're kinder and gentler in Weber County. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for your comments. Please, come on up.
We're limited to 2 minutes today, so I will talk fast. Lori Brinkerhoff, 6205 West, 4700 South. Couple points. I'd like to look at evidence. As this conversation was introduced, Bob Hunter wrote an excellent article highlighting the questions we should be asking. He points out of the 29 counties currently, 3 have changed to an alternative form, and he asks, what has been the cost to the citizens? Has this alternate form been successful? Obviously, I'm in support in looking at this study. I would support probably a 5-member body rather than setting up an executive. I look at Salt Lake County. I think they're very ineffective as they're in that typical management style. Also, a couple other thoughts I want to point out, and I have to talk really fast here. As this conversation has gone forward, there's been a lot of interest. I also represent Weber County Republican women. As this conversation went forward a month ago, I said at that time, I support in looking at women in this role and minorities in this role, and I continue. There's been other groups statewide that have reached out to me. Better Days 2020 has contacted me. They offer financial support and saying, what can we do to further this conversation? YMCA, Zion's Benign, Ide Bailey. Lots of corporations are interested in supporting this conversation and saying, what can we do to help women go forward in this conversation? And last of all, a piece of research policy that was presented, Utah Women in Leadership Project. In this document that's released at UVCC, Dr. Susan Madsen analyzes our current form of government. And in this, on page 3, we look, currently, there are no women serving as county commissioners. And they ask, is there an issue with that? And so there again, I would interject the need for women and to be represented at all forms of county government. This is available on their website if you'd like to take a look at it. It's great analysis. It asks lots of questions. Why are women not being represented? Maybe they just haven't seen that modeled. Maybe women don't have the financial networking available to them. So that is my input as we move forward on this discussion.
Thank you.
Justin Pawson, North Ogden, Utah House of Representatives. And I just wanted to say thank you.
Which district, sir?
District 7.
Okay, just making sure.
I just wanted to say thank you for the discussion. Thanks for listening. Thanks for the conversations that we've had. And Commissioner Harvey, it was my understanding at the time that we spoke that there would be additional costs incurred. So I appreciate your consideration of that. I have confirmed with Legislative General Counsel that we're on the right track, though, and there's no requirement for a special election and additional costs to the county. I do support the petitioners in their efforts, and I have little doubt that they'll have the signatures that they need to move forward with the study. I also support the study. I think it's necessary for us to review and see what the best outcome for Weber County would be. That may be the current form of government that we have. We don't know. So I just wanted to say thanks, and I support the discussion and direction you're headed.
Thank you. Thank you, Representative. Does anyone still would anyone still like to make a comment? Come on up, sir. Oh. Thank you for being here, sir.
Thank you, commissioners. Appreciate being here. It's kind of a interesting position to be out here in the audience. I sat there where you are for 12 years. And I noticed when you voted on things, I was voting aye or nay. So
Vote a little louder next time, please.
Yeah, it was really interesting. But no, I was 19 years ago. I was just taking office here, and that was the year they voted on the form of government. It was narrowly defeated in the election, but I think it was healthy, and I believe this is a healthy position to take to move forward and to study and see if there are things that we can do better. I might make a little correction. I think there are 5 counties that have different forms of government, and I was pleased to serve with 2 wonderful women who served on this commission. So Weber County has had diversity in gender on this county, and I think it served us well. But I commend you for considering this, and I'm in favor of always looking for a better way to do things. And it's good to be with you today.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your service.
No, did I give my name?
Yeah, I think we know who you are. You may need to say it
It's
into the mic.
Ken Bischoff from Ogden.
Thank you, sir. Are there any other former commissioners that would like to come up and say something? Anyone else? We appreciate your input.
Ready for motion?
Well, just a couple quick things. I'd like to just, there has never been, I'm going to speak for myself. There has never been a question on whether we should take the time to study the form of government. It's been the process. And I have demonstrated that to the initial petition group, to the Holmstroms, and to the folks that originally had come in and talked. I exhibited that to Mr. Mata when I talked to him, and I've had this conversation several times. It's the process. And I think that we've come to a good resolution on that specific process. I definitely think it's time. Specific to the resolution took a little bit of time to put together because we've had 2 different groups trying to really work with each other to get something that they both feel comfortable. And Mr. Crockett worked on this up into late Friday into Monday. I think he may have been working on it Monday. Is that correct? And so that is the reason. It wasn't an attempt to not have that information available. It was to create a resolution that reflected both parties' interests. In fact, I talked to, I think, Mayor Taylor last night about this to make sure that it was reflected correctly and that we would have both groups feeling like they were represented to move this forward. So that's a little bit of the background. These discussions have been going on for a long time, and I think we have a great group now ready to move this forward, and we have a great base to work and a foundation to work from. So I want to say thank you.
I didn't make a motion. I was waiting for a number. Fatima, if you're ready, I'll make it.
56, I believe.
56, correct.
I'll make a motion that we approve resolution number 56 regarding the appointment of a study committee to evaluate the form of government in Weber County.
I will second that motion. Do I need to say the number?
No. I have a motion and a second. Are there any further comments or discussion? None?
Commissioner Gibson?
Aye.
Commissioner Harvey?
Aye.
Chair Ebert?
Aye. Thank you very much. And thank you for all the hard work that's been put in for this and for all the late hours. We appreciate it very much. We'll now move on to item number 13, a request for approval of an ordinance of the County Commissioners of Weber County establishing a culture park and recreation special revenue fund. Mr. Scott Park.
Good morning.
Go ahead.
Let's just give the folks that need to leave a moment so they don't feel like they're interrupting. If you need to leave, please take a pause here so that you can feel comfortable. Thank you for coming. Good to see you, Commissioner Zogmaster. I was going to give you a chance to talk, but I didn't want to say because I didn't want to get in trouble.
All right, Commissioners, this is the second time we brought this ordinance before you. What it does is create a Culture, Parks, and Rec Special Revenue Fund, which allows us to carve out the Culture, Park, and Rec facilities from the general fund and put them in their own special fund. All the revenues and expenditures would be in that fund, and we'd be separate from the general fund, so it'd be more transparent as to what the money is coming in and what money is going out. It would highlight any operating subsidy that is required from other funds to maintain those services, and it would also allow the Culture, Parks, and Rec Fund to build a fund balance to start meeting their capital improvement needs. So it's the second time we presented this, so unless you have any questions, I'd ask for you to approve this ordinance.
We have a second reading on this ordinance. Any questions, Commissioners?
I'll just comment that we discussed it, you know, last when we had the first reading. I'm in favor of it. I think it's well written and it's a good process moving forward. So I'll make a motion that we approve the second reading.
34.
On resolution number 34.
I have a motion.
And a second.
A second. Any further discussion?
That'd be ordinance number 34, right?
34. Commissioner Gibson?
Aye.
Commissioner Harvey?
Aye.
Aye, it passes. Thank you. Item number 14, a request for approval of a resolution of the County Commissioners of Weber County approving the 2018 Weber County budget. Mr. Park.
All right, so we presented the tentative budget. It's been out on our county website since the 1st of November. We've made a couple of changes to the tentative budget for the final budget. I just wanted to highlight a couple of those right now. We made a couple of transfers in between funds. I won't really focus on those, but we did add $100,000 to a pool for market adjustments to help meet some of our compensation needs. We have several positions that are underfunded in the market to the point where we can't attract and retain qualified individuals. So we've put $100,000 aside in a pot to have that studied by our Human Resources Department, and they'll make a recommendation as to where to distribute those dollars. Our health fund, we actually reduced their budget by $85,000. They lost a contract, and they're making some adjustments to try to balance their revenues and expenditures, and they've proposed an $85,000 cut to their budget. It was something that they came up with. We are adjusting some revenue estimates to better reflect what we think actuality will be. We made a clerical change to account for some fleet charges for some new dump trucks that were inadvertently left out of the tentative budget. But the biggest change by far is we're adding $1.4 million into our capital projects budget for the demolition and reconstruction of the parking structure. There's several options on there. The parking structure has reached its end of life, and the cost to repair it exceeds the value that we would get out of it. So the proposal that we have now would be to tear the parking structure down and put in a surface parking lot until we can better figure out what parking needs will be in the future and what our plan is to go forward. So that's the biggest change to the tentative budget.
Thank you, Mr. Park. Commissioners, questions about the tentative budget?
I want to publicly thank those who've had a role in preparing this budget. I have complete confidence in your ability to help manage this county, and I just can't tell you enough how much I appreciate you and that team, Scott, that helps with this. I appreciate it very much. Having seen it now, especially from the inside, and then having worked from it from a periphery for nearly a quarter of a century, I'm very confident in where Weber County is today as it relates to finances. I appreciate where you've helped us with our fund balance. I appreciate that we've thought it a great idea to plan for the future with other projects that we know are coming forward. You've taken what we've learned in the past and applied it to the future. And I think that's incredibly responsible. Thank you. So with that, I'd make a motion that we approve the 2018 Weber County budget. That would be resolution
57.
I'll second with.
I have a motion and a second. Do I have further discussion?
So I will second as well the comments about our good comptroller. I appreciate the work that is done during the budget cycle by both our comptroller and staff from your office, Ricky, both Scott and Eric and Ricky and everyone else who's involved. We do have some great elected officials that aren't in our office that participate fully in that process as well, and continue to do good things and look for creative ways to make things work in this county. I just want to point out and explain a little bit, since there are a lot of people here that generally don't come to these meetings, how this process works. We have a series of meetings after proposals are submitted to the clerk auditor's office. We have a series of meetings throughout the month of October and November that are posted, open public meetings. And frankly, there are a lot of discussion and a lot of decisions that are made in those meetings. So by the time the budget gets to us in this form, a lot of decisions have been made. And frankly, I don't agree with all of the decisions that were made in that process. But there are a lot of small discussions and votes and along the way throughout those meetings. And when it comes to this point, it is our opportunity to vote yes or no on the particular budget as it has been crafted through all of those individual meetings. And to me, it takes a lot to get me to vote against a budget that has been through a detailed process like that. In this particular case, I think my opinion is that the basis and the foundation of this budget are secure, are sound. And because of that, I feel comfortable voting for this budget, even though I lost some battles along the way. And I think that's the way it's supposed to work, is that each of us advocate our positions on these issues, and sometimes we win and sometimes we lose, and it's a policy position and we move forward. But in the end, I think we have something here that makes good sense. There are some big line items that I'm concerned about. I'll admit it, but the foundation is strong, and that's the way it works. Again, some battles we win and some we lose. The fact is that I'm in a place now where I feel comfortable, generally, with the budget has been presented to us. And so I want to thank all of those who are involved in the process, from a commission level, from a staff level, from all the different departments, and I appreciate their effort to do what they think is best for the taxpayers of Weber County, and I'm grateful for each person's participation in that.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none?
Commissioner Gibson?
Aye.
Commissioner Harvey?
Aye.
Chair Ebert?
Aye. Thank you very much. Thank you for all the hard work that you put into that. Where are we at? Public hearing.
Page 3.
Are we on page 3? Okay. So I'll take a motion request. I'll take a motion for a request to adjourn this public meeting and convene a public hearing. Thank you.
So move.
I'll second. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. It passes. The purpose of this public hearing is in regarding amendments to the operating capital budget of the Weber County for the 2017 calendar year. Mr. Scott Park, please continue.
Okay, so what we do every quarter is we go back and we have to tweak our budget along the way, especially when we get new grants or for new situations that pop up, and we have a public public hearing to discuss those changes with you. All these individual budget adjustments have been passed through the commission office and reviewed by all three of you before. But I just want to highlight a couple of these. We received $141,000 of new grants, and so what we'd like to do is add $141,000 to the budget to spend those grants, and $141,000 of revenue, and then corresponding expenditures so that we can actually spend those grants. We had some additional revenue that came in, and with that revenue came additional cost of sales. So this would be at our county fair, our garage, our transfer station, our roads and highways. And so what we're asking for is to bump up our revenue budget and our expenditure budget correspondingly to cover those costs of sales. Some additions to the budget that weren't covered, the Ogden Valley Library asked for $15,000 to replace a projector that went out. We had some adjustments to our fleet charges by $87,000. We moved $30,000 from our 2018 budget back into the 2017 budget to complete a project to get internet services out at the Golden Spike Event Center a little bit faster than what we had originally planned for. We increased our budget by $100,000 to our public defenders to cover the increased cost of capital appeals. And we added $100,000, which was originally appropriated in 2016 to our trails budget for the Pathway project. It was money that was originally appropriated in 16, didn't get spent, and we weren't sure we were going to spend it in 17, and then we decided we wanted to. So with that, unless you have any specific questions.
Questions to those amendments? Okay, seeing none, now's the time for public comment. Anyone in the audience like to make public comment on the adjustments to the 2017 budget? Okay, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the public hearing and reconvene our public meeting.
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
It passes. We're back into our public meeting. Any action on the public hearing?
I'll make a motion that we approve the adjustments to the 2017 capital budget, operating and capital budget.
Resolution 58.
Resolution number 58.
I have a motion and a second on resolution 58. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll
Commissioner
turn the
Gibson.
time over.
Aye.
Commissioner Harvey.
Aye.
Chair Ebert.
Aye, it passes. Thank you very much. Thank you for your time. We have set the time aside for any other public comment in general. Anyone interested? Okay, seeing, come on up, sir. Please state your name and then just where you, unless you're leaving. Okay.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Alan Barrett. I live out in Taylor. Appreciate just a moment to speak in support of Commissioner Gibson. Obviously, I've been around a long time and I've had opportunities through the years to work with him, meet with him on a regular basis. First as when he was a legislator and I was on the Weber School Board, and now as issues rise out in the western part of the county on land use and development and those things. I just want to say that I've always felt and noticed that he was extremely knowledgeable, very well prepared to lead out in doing what's best for the people of the county. And I just appreciate him and speak for those who stand by him and support him in light of current publicity. So thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning. Good morning.
I'm Denise Knight. I live in Huntsville, Utah, and I would also like to speak on behalf of Carrie Gibson. I'm a volunteer for the Weber County, and I am also a volunteer for a nonprofit in Weber County. And in that capacity, I've worked with Commissioner Gibson several times. I've found him supportive, scrupulous in separating business from private values. And I'm really disturbed that he's been accused anonymously in the paper. I think that it's an obvious biased attempt to make people think that he's corrupt, and I really think it's unfair.
Good morning, Commission. Toby Molesky, Pleasant View City. I am also here in support of Commissioner Gibson, and in light of these allegations that were published in the Standard. I do feel for you, sir. I have been there myself as a victim of the Standard in my out-of-ordinance cows. But there is solace, sir. The cows taste really good now that they're butchered. So good luck. Best to all of you, and have a happy holidays and a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Should I say my name again?
Please.
Virginia Hernandez Reza. I live in Ogden. Now I know the reason I came. But anyway, I did come because I have observed and been involved with this community for a long time, and know Mr. Commissioner Gibson. I want to say to him that what has just taken place in the Standard, as someone just said, don't feel bad. Standard Examiner, the new Standard Examiner, that we have ourselves, our community, has been ignored. There's been bias. We are not recognized as forgotten community. And it just made me furious when I read the opinions. And I did call them, I called leading people in my community and full support that they should have never done this until the Standard shouldn't be the one to be doing this. It should be someone else to bring this incident out in the public, and it's not legitimate. They're just assuming. I just want to reassure you, Mr. Gibson, whatever direction you go, you have a lot of people that will vouch that you are an honest, good man. I don't know you personally, but your work has been fantastic. Thank you for everything.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
In behalf of Kerry, I've known him for a number of years and found him to be an honest and honorable man. I could come up with all kinds of examples, but just one. I work for a nonprofit, and as such, we come around once a year begging for money, and we hold a banquet. I come to the commission and work through Commissioner Gibson, and always find support. Most places I go, I am given a check and I write a receipt, but not with Commissioner Gibson. Because we give away party favors, material things, which they're encouraged to take home, he sees that as not for profit, personal gain, so I have to give him 2 receipts. One for the commission and a personal one for his check. He's a good man.
What is your name, sir?
Oh, I'm sorry. Monty Smith, Liberty, Utah.
Hi, my dear friends. Lisa Galvez, West Haven, Weber County. I love you all and grateful for your service. But I want all of you in this room to know that I have known Kerry to be a man of integrity, honor, and I will stand by him through thick and thin. I have learned from him, been mentored by him, argued and fought with him.
I usually lose.
Yes, he does. But I want you to know that I am grateful to know him and see him as a father, as a husband, and how he treats his wife, and as a commissioner. I'm proud of him, proud to have served with him and learned from him. I am grateful for our form of government. I'm grateful that it allows us to serve and to stand up and be part of our community. It's not an easy job. I know. You get hit from all sides. It's thankless. But I'm proud. I'm proud of all of you. And I'm grateful, Kerry, for all you've done. I want all those in here to know that I've seen Kerry on every level. And I've seen him stand up when it's hard and do the right thing. He's a man of integrity. Thank you.
Thank you.
Last time I did this, you guys cut off the feed, so we're still good? All right. Dump it. My name is Chris Jenkins. I'm the Vice Chair for the Weber County Executive. The longer the title, less important the position. So Vice Chair of the Weber County Republican Executive Committee. Whew, that's a long title. In our meeting, we made a statement, and that is that we believe that the hold to the truth that the accused are innocent until proven guilty. And we appreciate all commissioners, and we appreciate you, Mr. Carey. Thank you.
Thank you.
Reminds me of fast and testimony meeting. Should I just wait till someone else stands up? We appreciate your attendance today, and we appreciate the words in behalf of Commissioner Gibson. We appreciate your community involvement. We encourage you to continually be involved. There is an amazing group that is working with Mr. Mata and others in Weber County Forward, and it's an effort to strengthen our community. So your attendance today again moves hopefully the needle a little bit on community involvement and engagement, and we encourage you to continue being extremely engaged in our communities. So with that being said, Commissioner Gibson, is there anything you'd like to leave us with, or any thoughts before we go?
I'll just quickly express gratitude. There's no question that it's been a challenging week for me, and I just appreciate those who have recognized that and showed support. So I appreciate all of you being here and being a part of this process, no matter what's going on. A lot of your faces I see often, not just today, and I'm just grateful for each and every one of you. Thank you.
I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
So move.
Been moved, and I'll second it. All in favor say aye. Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you very much.